Today, we're going to dig into a pretty quiet government policy change, but one that could really affect how you're seen, especially when you travel. It's all about Social Security, your personal data, and this growing debate over privacy. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so let's just start with the big question right up front. Is the government keeping tabs on when you leave the country? The answer to that used to be pretty straightforward, but now, well, a new rule has changed everything.
And we're not talking about some small niche policy here. This directly impacts about 75 million Americans, anyone receiving Social Security or supplemental security income, SSI benefits. That is a massive, massive number of people.
So what is this new rule from the Social Security Administration, the SSA, all about? What does it actually do? Let's break it down.
Here's the gist of it. The SSA basically has a green light now to get its hands on travel data that's been collected by the Department of Homeland Security. And what that means is they can see when people receiving benefits are traveling outside of the U.S. And this is a huge shift in how things are done. Before, the responsibility was all on you. You had to self-report if you were traveling abroad for more than 30 days. But now, the whole system is becoming automated. The government is actively monitoring this stuff instead of just waiting for you to tell them. Let's just let that number sink in for a second. 75 million people. We're talking about retirees, people with disabilities, folks on supplemental income, a huge slice of the population whose travel could now be tracked automatically. So why are they doing this? What's the official reason? Well, the Social Security Administration says it's all about making things more efficient and accurate. Their stated goal is to curb improper payments, which is basically a government way of saying they want to make sure benefits aren't going to people who might be ineligible because they're living overseas for long stretches of time.
But here's the thing. This rule isn't happening in a vacuum. And to really understand why it's making privacy advocates so nervous, we kind of have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of how government agencies are starting to handle our personal data.
You see, this is just the latest step in a larger pattern. Back in mid-2023, the SSA started sharing more of its data with DHS for immigration enforcement. Then, around the same time, reports started coming out about attempts to use that same SSA data to challenge state voter rolls. And now we've got this new travel tracking rule. When you line them all up, a pretty concerning picture starts to emerge.
And that separate data sharing agreement for immigration, the numbers there are just staggering. It could potentially give DHS access to the sensitive data of over 500 million people. That's almost definitely you, me, and pretty much anyone who's ever applied for a Social Security number. And groups like the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities are sounding the alarm. They're pointing out some really serious risks. For one, a database that massive could be filled with old, outdated, or just plain wrong information. And that could lead to someone having their benefits cut off by mistake. And if that data is ever used to challenge who's registered to vote, it could actually prevent eligible people from casting a ballot.
So here's the crucial takeaway. While this new travel rule is officially just about benefit payments, it fits right into this bigger, more troubling pattern of government data sharing. And that's raising some very real fears about how all of our personal info could be misused down the line.
Okay, I know this can all sound pretty overwhelming, so let's bring it back to what you can actually control. There are a few practical steps you can take to help protect yourself and your information.
First things first, be proactive. Don't just wait for the automated system to figure things out. If you're traveling, or if there's any change to your job or health, report it to the SSA directly. That way you have your own paper trail, which can be a lifesaver if an automated error pops up. And second, get comfortable with your online SSA account. Log in from time to time and just look over your records. Make sure everything looks right. Remember, these automated systems aren't perfect, and you are always your own best advocate.
So, after looking at the rule itself, the wider context, and what you can do about it, what's the big takeaway here? Where do we go from here?
Well, the bottom line is that this new rule really blurs a critical line. On one side, you have the government's very legitimate interest in making sure taxpayer money is going to the right people. But on the other side, you have this growing concern about widespread, automated surveillance of everyday citizens. And that leaves us with a final, really important question. In this new age of big data and interconnected government agencies, we all have to ask, when does a simple tool for enforcement become a tool for surveillance? And where exactly should we draw that line?